So part of the process from getting a square sheet of wood to look so round and so smooth for my clocks is to take the original template, and that basically is the original, or one of the first ones that I made a couple years ago, and decided that it would be smart to keep around. I measured it out. It's like 15 inches in diameter, just like all my clocks are. But I don't have any special tools. At least I didn't have any until recently, to where I could actually make a circle out of a square. I know that they do make those, and like I said, I own it, but it has never come out of the box because this particular method is tried and true, and I am a creature of habit. So, plus I like the smell of cutting wood and watching something magical happen, especially when you're taking a square and making it completely round. To me, that's perfection. So I do take various types of shelving. Actually, it's glued edge. In this case, it's soft pine, and I do have a jig that you'll see me come out with a little bit here in a minute or so. And I cut the corners off first, of course, make my life easier before I even install the jig and start working with it. But as you can see, the jig goes right on. I had to measure it to be able to go into the groove where the cross-cut fitting goes. Unfortunately, it isn't the best. This particular Ryobi table saw kind of makes it difficult, whereas they have a tapered edge on the inside, so you can't just cut something to size as far as the width goes and slide that thing on there. But I work with it. I definitely made it happen. And so I've cut out as many of the corners as I can while still being able to measure it out 15 inches. This particular jig I've had since the beginning, and it is not perfect. So I eventually had to cut out the one edge that's closest to the saw because I would keep pushing it too far over, and then eventually that edge wouldn't be a perfect 90 degrees in order to help my situation. Although, coming from the diameter side, you're just measuring from where the edge cut comes from the saw itself as you're spinning around that square and cutting off those minute portions of the corners until eventually you have nothing left and you can just do a complete circle. But if you don't have a good edge, you're going to have a lopsided circle. And I found after a while that, once I've cut off even a small portion of that one side of the jig, it does affect how my circles come out. So in this case, I eventually broke down and just said, hey, you know what? I'm going to cut this thing square again and start from scratch. And even though there is a small space, probably about a half an inch between the edge of the jig that I have and the saw itself, the concept remains the same, right? The distance from the point of center to the saw itself is still 7.5 inches. So that's what matters, right? I wasn't very conscious of the camera here in this particular video. It would have been better if I did like an overhead shot. But if you know anything about how to make a jig and turn a square into a circle, you've probably seen similar videos anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But yes, part of the process is being sure you got a good jig, sliding it back and forth, knocking off every part of the corners that you can, up until the point where you can have anywhere from 16 to 25, even 30 cuts to the point where your finished product eventually will have that many sides, and then you can gradually spin that particular stock that you have, and then cut it off without having any jagged edges. Everything's smoothed out. Very, very minimal sanding is required, although I like to do it to the point where you can't feel anything. But just like with every other fickle piece of wood that you have to deal with, you know that nothing's perfect until you sand it and do some finishing of your own. So that's the final product. Hope you liked the video, and we'll see you next time.